Welcome to the preview of the games in April, and we start right away with the adventure prequel road 96 Mile Zero. Here we control the two teenagers, Zoe and Kaido, who could not be more different. Zoe comes from a wealthy family and lives in the affluent neighborhood of the city, while Kaido can barely afford a basement apartment with his job. During our journey, we get to know them better, make decisions, and complete a series of small tasks. In Mile Zero, the prequel to the 2021 road trip adventure Road 996, we find out why Zoe ran away from home. Mageseeker comes from the developers of Dead by Daylight and expands the idea of a raid shooter with world-building elements that we are more familiar with from Super Mario Maker. Instead of creating colorful jump-and-run levels, here we build deadly fortresses filled with traps, monsters, and puzzles. Alternatively, we can storm the dungeons of other players and rate their constructions afterward or directly subscribe to the creator. By the way, Mageseeker is included in PS Plus at launch on PlayStation. In April, even the PlayStation VR 2 gets a new edition with Creed. Rise to Glory, another update to the boxing simulation game based on the movie franchise. We control Adonis Creed and fight our way to the top in a campaign or in PvP battles. The PlayStation VR version benefits mainly from 3D audio and a special impact ring, which makes everything in our field of view look especially good. After over 2 years, Something Space 2 is finally leaving early access. In addition to 6 major content updates, the developers have improved and expanded many small details. Through the in-game lounge, they were able to make the game even bigger than originally planned. However, the versions for Xbox Series X and S as well as PlayStation are expected to be released only in the summer. In April, fans of retro shooters can once again shoot monsters into their pixelated pieces as Supplice heavily references classics like Quake and even describes itself as the hot sister of Doom. The first-person shooter is now released in early access on Steam, with plans to expand over time. However, the developers have not yet revealed when the full version 1.0 will be released. There is also a new Metroidvania game, Curse of the Sea Rats. In this game, we are transformed into rats by a witch and must not only defeat her, but also rescue a kidnapped boy to regain not only our human form, but also our freedom. Additionally, up to 3 other players can join in the science adventure, exploring the world together and uncovering its many secrets and bosses. In the roguelike Ravenswatch, we fight against masses of enemies from an isometric view. First, we select one of 6 heroes and gradually learn new skills that can even be upgraded later on. The action title is now released in early access and is expected to receive new heroes and gameplay features in the future. After making the base game and the first episode of Half-Life 2 compatible with VR headsets through a free mod, the release of Episode 2 is now also on the horizon. Among the recent updates are gameplay adjustments such as manual reloading and increased accuracy when holding the pistol with 2 hands. The Steam Workshop has even been integrated, allowing users to create and download assets for the mod. In the remake of the 2006 Sherlock Holmes game, The Awakened, we once again confront the Cthulhu cult, who are possessed by ancient gods. In order to prevent their prophecy from coming true, we follow many clues, solve puzzles, and try not to fall into madness. Thanks to the Unreal Engine 4, the remake not only looks great, but also features new quests, side stories, and gameplay mechanics. The 4th major paid expansion for the space game X4 Foundations finally brings back the alien race of the Boron with new spaceships and sectors. Simultaneously with the release of the DLC, there is also a big update available now in beta. Version 6.0 delivers improved graphics, a completely new physics engine, and many small improvements that work even without the new add-on. Wartales is also leaving early access in April. In this tactical RPG, we lead a group of mercenaries who we use in turn-based battles against our enemies. But the open world also invites exploration and offers a lot of activities, side quests, and of course, blood. And the tactical theme continues with Shardpunk Verminfall, where we also fight turn-based battles in a dark steampunk world. In addition to bloody battles, we also carefully manage our resources and fight for survival through light survival mechanics. Those who want to check it out now can download a free demo on Steam. Trinity Fusion is a 2.5D road-like platformer that takes us into a man-made multiverse. We play as Mahjong, who has a connection to her alter egos in 3 parallel worlds. As we progress further into the game, we can connect the abilities of all the characters and become even stronger. After numerous delays, the multiplayer shooter Boundary is finally launching in early access on Steam. At launch, there will be 7 maps set in zero-gravity space, a complete progression system with 70 levels, and additional unlockables. Version 1.0 is planned to release 6 to 12 months later and will include ranked matches, bots, and a battle pass. The new DLC, Forge of the Chaos Wars for Warhammer 3, will bring a new race into the world of the fantasy total war game on April 13th, namely the Chaos Dwarfs. This will include new units, commanders, and a new starting point on the map. Additionally, a new campaign will be added. It's worth noting that unlike regular dwarves, Chaos Dwarves are also sympathetic to magic. The Match is a League of Legends spin-off game that focuses entirely on the origin story of sailors. In this action role-playing game, we jump and fight our way through the pixel art world depicted in the genre's typical isometric view. We learn to use magic step by step and become heroes familiar to LoL fans from the upper chin. In Minecraft Legends, the developers at Blackbird Interactive have traded the usual sandbox gameplay of the normal Minecraft game for action strategy in real time. In the campaign, which we can play alone or online with friends, we not only control our own character but also give orders to our armies in battle against the piglins from the Nether. The creators of Homeworld 3 and Crossfire Legend also allow us to build our own base in keeping with the genre. There is also a PvP mode in which 2 teams try to destroy each other's bases, as is typical for the genre. The developer studio game Loftum for mobile games is planning to compete with Mario Kart with their upcoming game, Disney Speedstorm, which will enter early access in April. Fans of fun racing games should feel right at home with collected weapons and upgrades as they blast their opponents and race with a range of Disney characters to claim first place. The finished game is expected to be free to play and will generate revenue through skins and a battle pass. God of Rock is actually a classic fighting game, but it uses rhythm gameplay from music. Instead of using combos, we force our opponents to their knees by hitting the right notes in time. At the same time, with special attacks, we can also make our opponents' songs more complex. In 1 versus 1 duels, we can compete against AI or locally or online against other players. Burning Shores is the first DLC for Horizon Forbidden West and takes us to the post-apocalyptic version of Los Angeles. Story-wise, the expansion picks up directly at the end of the main game. Since the add-on is only available for PlayStation 5, it should not only be more graphically detailed, but also benefit from the performance capabilities of the current Sony console in terms of gameplay. In Survival Fountain of Youth, we chase the Fountain of Youth during an expedition, but of course, it wouldn't be a survival game if our ship didn't sink and we stranded on a tropical island. Now we must craft items, hunt animals, overcome illnesses, and even build different types of boats later on to explore further islands. The Adventure of Tim Hearts takes us on a journey through a Victorian toy world and lets us control a small tin soldier. As we progress on our journey, we solve a lot of puzzles and also have to master tricky jumping sections. Additionally, the developers place great emphasis on a charmingly told story and plan to make it accessible to owners of VR headsets with an update in the summer of 2023. In the action-adventure game Stray Blade, we play as a renegade in the Agria Valley to collect 3 magical medals. We are accompanied by a mysterious creature named Body, who also helps us with puzzles outside of combat and has its own talent tree to level up, just like our hero. We can choose from a variety of medieval weapons to face our enemies, from swords to all kinds of axes and heavy weaponry. Advanced Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp are, as the name suggests, remakes of the first two entries in the turn-based strategy series. They will be released together as a double pack. Despite incorporating modern improvements, the developers aim to stay true to the old Game Boy Advance games and not change too much. The development history of Dead Island 2 is certainly one of the wildest in gaming history, and yet there could be a happy ending now. I had a lot of fun playing the crazy zombie spectacle, where we play as one of the few survivors shortly after the zombie virus broke out in Los Angeles. Unlike Dying Light, the game world is not a classic open world, but divided into various areas. In Shadow of Dots, we take on the role of a detective in an alternate timeline of the 1980s. In this open-world crime game, we are tasked with tracking down a serial killer by gathering evidence, conducting interrogations, and reviewing surveillance footage. There are many ways to catch the perpetrator. Shadow of Dots is currently in early access, but the developers plan to release version 1.0 later this year and share a roadmap with the community outlining upcoming updates and content. The developers of Surviving Mars are taking a different approach with their new science fiction building game Stranded: Alien Dawn, drawing inspiration from colony simulations such as RimWorld. Players control a small group that crash lands on an alien planet and must establish a new home there. Each inhabitant has different abilities and should be assigned to appropriate tasks accordingly. The version 1.0 now comes with the fourth major content update, which includes, among other things, a trading post in the game. In Straight, the mystical game world is composed of light and darkness, but don't expect many concrete answers in the game world as the developers hold back on direct storytelling, similar to From Software's sound design, leaving you plenty of room for interpretation. However, in combat, quick fingers are required as the thematic duels heavily rely on dodging and parrying. The creators of Genshin Impact are releasing their next free-to-play RPG, Honkai Star Rail, this time with turn-based combat. The game world is not completely open, but divided into various areas, each filled with activities including dungeons and puzzles for players to explore. And for those who want something scary in April, there is also Bramble the Mountain King coming out. The story draws on many elements of Nordic legends and fairy tales and wraps them in a dark atmosphere. Gameplay-wise, Bramble often reminds us of Little Nightmares as we have to overcome small jumping passages, battles, and hiding games. In The Last Case of Benedict Fox, we play as the titular hero who tries to uncover the mysteries of a family tragedy, but we also have to be careful not to be consumed by our own inner demons during our journey. In addition to the many challenging puzzles, there are also demanding fights and some really disturbingly designed boss enemies in between.
That's him. My father.
I can guide you through his memory.
In ArcRunner, we choose between a ninja, hacker, and soldier at the beginning to prevent the destruction of a space station by an AI. As typical for roguelites, we learn new abilities, find new weapons, and can permanently upgrade them in case we need to start over. Additionally, ArcRunner offers a co-op mode for up to 4 players. After the last delay, and hopefully it's finally April and time for the release of the successor to Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. The story of Jedi Survivor takes place 5 years after the original but still plays between episodes 3 and 4. As expected from a sequel, the developers at Respawn expand the range of gameplay options by a lot. We will not only get to ride and fly creatures, but also finally have the much-requested fast travel function. Additionally, we can now use more weapon combinations more freely, such as blasters and lightsabers.
Explode. Part of the job, Custis.
So to wrap up as we do every month preview, let's move on to the ports, even though they are quite limited in April. We start with Ghostwire Tokyo for the current Xbox consoles. The first-person action game will be available from April 12th and will also be included in the Game Pass for PC and Xbox with plenty of new content, including new areas, gameplay improvements, a completely new game mode, and more, such as a new Oswee's Dash. In 2022, Greenix brought the classic RPG Level Live exclusively to the Switch. On April 27th, the game will finally be released on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and PC. However, there is still no news of an Xbox version, but you can already download a demo on Steam. And finally, there's also the Sunbreak DLC from Monster Hunter Rise, which is already available on Switch and PC since last year and now releasing on Xbox and PlayStation consoles. Along with new locations, its extensive add-on brings a range of new monsters, activities, and combat techniques. And that's it for new games in April as far as we know. Feel free to let us know which titles you are particularly excited for, and we'll see you next time.